So today we'll be talking about two kind of main-ish topics in combinatorics. One of them are partitions, which occur everywhere. And the other one is the concept of ordering things, which come out as like posets and lattices. So we'll basically talking about partitions and lattices. And then we'll see how both of them come together towards the end. So why exactly? Because they're fun. Also, orderings are a more so these topics just don't only come up in combinatorics, they come up in a lot of places, and we'll also see examples of where they happen. Right. So let's get started. So what is a partition? A partition is to be imagined as a tuple of natural numbers, so that the sum of these elements, all of these coordinates, gives us that number. So it's a way to take a number n and then break up the number into different parts, which we'll call lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, and so on. The only thing is that the sum of all lambda I should be equal to n. And you can do this for any natural number. So there is a standard way of representing a partition where I say that lambda, so this symbol is called a V dash or a turnstile. So it's read as lambda is a partition of n. So what does that mean? That means that lambda is some tuple, and so I'll denote lambda as lambda 1 up to lambda r, or you can just represent it as lambda 1 up to lambda, like till infinitely many terms. So general question, if I have this as a finite tuple, then can you tell me what the infinite thingy would look like, considering that we have this condition? Hello?
Will there be a bunch of zeros like inserted? Like it'll be zero everywhere except at a bunch of finite
Yep.
R positions.
Yeah. So that's what we do. So we have two conditions. First of all, we arrange these in a non-strictly descending order. And if it is fine, if it's like an infinite, then we append zeros at the end. In our case, we will be only talking about finite tuples, so we don't care about that. But it's a good way to, like, we should know this. And then you can have like multiple examples for this. Say I give you 10. Then 10 you can divide it as 5, 3, 2. So I write, so this is my lambda, this is my n, and I will write lambda as a partition of n. Plus I can do say 4, 4, 2, which is mu, and then mu is a partition of n. So we will always have this in a descending order. And so this is our partition representation. A slightly cuter way to do this is to take this partition, which is our tuple, and visualize this as a diagram in R2. And this diagram has some particular properties. Actually, so we'll take an example. Suppose my lambda is 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1. That is too big an example, so we want to 4, 4, 2, 1. Now what I do is this will be my first row. So I will mark this as my origin in some sense. And this will be my first row, and it will consist of lambda 1 boxes. So I make my first row, 1, 2, 3. So there are 4 boxes in the first row. Then there will be 4 boxes in my second row, and there will be 2 boxes in my third row, and 1 box in my last row. So this is lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4. So lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4. And the thing is, this is left justified and upper justified. So which basically means that I just push all of them to the left and push all of them to the up. So you can't have anything like this. Say you have 1, 2, 3. You can't have something like this because it's not upper justified. Because this can go upper, which shouldn't be allowed. Just a small note. This is actually called this is the English notation. In the French notation, they do it ulta, but so this is the English notation. Just, is this part clear? So these are what we call Ferris diagrams. Are you putting stuff in chat? Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes. So yeah. Okay, I can't. Okay, cool. So these are what we call Ferris diagrams. Before we look at how to order these Ferris diagrams with respect to each one, we'll first see what we can do to them. So we'll start by operations on these diagrams. So what you can do is you can remove or add these boxes. So I start with my diagram, which is like 4, 3, 3, 1, 1, and I can remove this particular box in the third row. That's a choice I make. Or I could have removed the last box over here, and that would have made the partition 4, 3, 3, 1, 0. And remember how we said if there are zeros at the end, it doesn't really matter. So 4, 3. So if I remove this last box, this will become 4, 3, 3, 1, 0, right? Which is the same partition as 4, 3, 3, 1. And you can see why that might be the case. So you have this. Or what you can do is add a box. And so over here there was a 3, and I added a box in that row, and this is a 4. In all of these steps, what you have to remember is the new object, the new figure, must also be a partition. So I can't randomly remove this box. Oh no. Yeah. So if I remove this box, you will see that this will become 4, 2, 3, 1, 1, right? Which is not a partition. So I don't allow that. Another thing that you can do is you can remove a box and put it at the same time. So taking a box from the bottomer row and putting it on an upper row. Again, while preserving the partition thingy. This is what we called a raising operator. We'll see how these operators actually help us in ordering the thing. Is this part clear? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we know how to add boxes, right? And if we can add boxes, we can create partitions just by adding our boxes, which we're gonna do over here. Say I give you this 1, 2, 3, easy, sir. No, right. So I give you a 3, 2, 2 kind of thing. Now what I want to do is build this partition up from an empty partition. Like empty partition is just your whiteboard. There's nothing over there. So one way would be like I add a box here, then I add another box here, then I add another box here, then I add a box niche, and then I do a same thing and I add a box niche. I did not plan this out well. You know what? Niche wala row kisko chahiye? Huh. So now I can make this partition just by adding boxes row wise. But I can also add my boxes column wise. So I can be like, let's make column 1, 2. Then I will have this column. I'll add a box here. And you can see at every step, it is a partition. I am not randomly adding boxes. That part has to be preserved. So this is how I created row wise and column. And also you can be like a weird maverick and you can do some random thing like this. I make this first add row, then you add yahan pe, then you again add in row, and then you finally add your column. Right, so you can build up your partitions just by adding boxes in multiple ways. This is important. and we will get to it by the way. This is an extremely important construction because this also shows up in representation theory, but we can talk about that by the way. So keep that on side. Next thing is conjugation of a Ferris diagram. So you take a partition and you denote its conjugate by lambda tilde. And for every box I comma j in lambda. Now before that, I kind of have to explain what the coordinates are. So I is the ith row. So this is the second row, first column wala box. This is the third row, second column wala box. Right? So these will be our coordinates. So for every box I comma j in my partition lambda, I will have a box that is in the j comma ith position. So you have seen this, right? You have seen this in the case of say a matrix transpose. You put the element in your I comma j position, usko pakad ke you put it in j comma I. So just imagine that. This is what a matrix basically is now. It's something like this. So you put this wala thing like this. This is exactly what we are doing. So you can see that there are 3 rows. So 1, 2. So in the first column there are 1, 2, 3. In the first row there are 1, 2, 3. Second column 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 1, 1, 1. So rows become columns, column becomes rows. This is called a conjugation. That's cool, right? I believe that's cool. So there's a small exercise which you can show. Ki if I tell you about partitions that have a maximum part m, that means if I write my lambda as m comma something something something, like in 10 equal to 5 comma 3, no, weird notation, like 5 comma 3 comma 2 is a partition of 10, then the maximum part is 5. So I take all of the partitions of, so if I take all of the partitions with maximum part m, and then I take all of the partitions with m many parts, m many non-zero parts, then you can show that the numbers are equal. This is a very famous exercise which you might have seen before in a combinatorics course.
You brought this up in math also, right?
We have, yes.
Yeah.
This is a very, this is standard intro combi exercise in partitions. So this has a very nice solution because we have already talked about conjugation, so it's on the conjugation page. So you just, for those who haven't seen, this is an exercise, so you might want to try it on. So that's fine. Cool. That's done. So we have seen box adding and we have seen conjugation. Now, because there are boxes, right? And if you see boxes, you have like an urge to fill something in them. And that's what we are going to do. So, you know what a Sudoku is. So, Sudoku is this weird 9 by 9 thingy. I'm just going to draw 3. And in every box looks like this. And you place a certain condition on the numbers. Like Hare Chrome, there can be only one of these 1 to 9. In every box, there can be this. And for certain condition, and once you place the condition, that thing is called a Sudoku, right? And then you can compute like how many Sudokus are possible and so on. A very similar thing we'll do over here. We will take our partition and what does O mean?
No, that was Tumir's comment.
Oh lord. Yeah, and you can put literally anything you want. You can put letters, Greek letters, emojis and stuff. But in our case, what we'll do is we will put numbers, just natural numbers. Why not draw some emojis for fun? P, C, gamma. Shit, I ran out of time. Want to star, I guess. Oh, cool, it just died. Star. So we can do this, or in our case, what we will do is we will just fill this with numbers. So I'll say put 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 3 here again, and for fun, 3 here again. This is a way to fill it. But some of these, like in Sudoku, what do these restrictions give you? They give you a nice puzzle, right? But in the case of some fillings, these are like important in other mathematical fields of more consequence. So now we will construct, just by filling these in these numbers, what is a standard or a semi-standard Young tableau. So Young was a guy. First, we fill numbers in 1 to n, where and so I'm just taking that it's a partition of n. So there are n many boxes, right? And we fill in these numbers from 1 to n. And we place the condition that from left to right, they increase, and from top to bottom, they increase. Increase in current scenario, not strictly, but we'll get to that. Now I can put 1 here. Okay, just these are 6 things, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tell me where the 1 should go. Hello.
One comma one.
Yeah. So there's no other place for our 1 to go, because otherwise jahan pe put karuga, this will be smaller than something else. So this might be my 1, and then I can put a 2 over here, and then like a 3, 4, 5, 6. I can fill it like that, and you can see that these conditions are satisfied. And you're welcome to like try your own fillings. So if the numbers are all different, like the set of numbers is like 1 to n, then it's called a standard Young tableau. कि कोई repeat नहीं हो रहा. And if it's being repeated, then it's called a semi-standard. We won't care about semi-standard in this talk, but like they exist. So our main thing is if I don't repeat a number and they go from like, so if I don't repeat a number and suppose I write 1, 2, ke baad 4, then fine. So if my set is 1 to n, that's called a standard Young tableau. So so there's a very standard question that how many possible Sudokus are there? And I think there's a number file video on it, which I think there is. How is the shape of the table determined? Shape of which table?
So like you made a 4.
Hello? Hello? Did my net disconnect?
I don't think
He
any of us
muted
can hear.
himself.
Oh, okay, fine. Right, just like, right. So the shape of the tableau is determined by the partition. So say I have 6 boxes, I can break it into 4 parts and 2 parts. And so my table ka shape will be 4, and I will put 2 niche. Is that fine? Okay. Yeah, so this is the standard representation of partition. Right. So now we kind of want to ask, So everybody got what is the relation between partition now. So there is no relation. What do you mean by there is a relation between partition and filling? So for a given partition, there, why are you right? I can tell you why the fillings are important and what they mean representation theoretically, but like, uh,
So why does it have to be a partition only? Why can't you randomly have some row and column boxes and fill in them?
yeah. So currently we are looking at partition only.
Or
That's
where
why.
you're putting
So,
things.
so none of these processes are random at all. They all have mathematical
Oh,
like meaning somewhere, but I'm not going into that. We can talk about that later.
okay.
Like, why am I filling it? Yeah, but currently we are just having fun. We are like कि numbers है, उसमें थोड़ी सी restriction डाल के let's fill them. And you will kind of see what the filling really means. So how many standard young tableau are there? So everybody got what a standard young tableau is, right? Number should increase from left to right, top to bottom, and all of them are different. And given a shape lambda, like this, some shape of this kind, I denote the number of standard young tableau on it by f lambda, which is also called the dimension of the partition. It's called the dimension.
Quick
Hanji.
question. Are we kind of like building up to sub-partitions because you kind of,
Building up to what?
I mean, I don't know if sub-partitions is a thing, but like you impose the condition that it's an increasing sequence in both the row and the
Yes.
column. So
Yes.
is there like some significance for that? Because that also kind of gives a partition of some number kind of.
Yes, you have a very good enough idea of why we are filling the numbers the way we are.
Okay.
It's over here in this section. I will tell you. Actually, no, in this section, one of these sections, I will tell you what's happening and why we are filling numbers this particular way. Right. So in order to calculate f lambda, what you can do is you can do all the fillings, or of course, like everything, there's a very nice description. So I'll just define a concept of a hook length. A hook length, what it is, you look at a box and you see how many things there are to the right of it, how many things are there below, and you add one to it because of the box itself. So what will be the hook length of this particular box that I have pointed?
I can't see the pointer actually.
This one, the one I've circled. Wait, what? Four. So everybody is okay with y4, right? Cool. So number of boxes to the right, number of boxes niche, and the box itself. So the total hook length, so the hook length of this box will be 4. And you can like just write this algebraically, which is fine. So one nice thing that you can do is that you can find the hook lengths of this particular column. ये सारे column के boxes लो and find the hook lengths. And a nice exercise is to find the explicit formula for that. Then you can show that all of these will be distinct, and they will form a set because they're all distinct. So there are no overlaps, which is good. And we'll call that set H lambda. So because it's coming from lambda and it's the first column hook length. And then you can show that from H lambda. So now we know how to go from lambda to H lambda, right? This is the first part. And what you can show is that you can go from H lambda back to lambda. Key my first column hook lengths are enough to recover my whole partition. So you can go back also. It's a nice exercise if you want to like understand the this concept of hook lengths better. Everybody's okay with what hook lengths are, right?
They don't seem distinct to me.
They are distinct. The first column hook lengths, just the first column.
Okay.
Of course, बाकी hook length में there is a lot of overlap. No, what just happened? Right. So this f lambda can be figured out by just counting the hook lengths. This is the formula. You do n factorial and then you product all the hook lengths. Let's do an example for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have a 3 over here.
Wait, here n is the number that turns
Yes,
tiles the
and
partition, right?
I have correct. It does turnstile the partition. Yes, n is a number being partition. Okay, so remember that hook length is some sort of a figure ka property. Now in these boxes, I will write hook lengths. These are not the Young Tableau wale numbers. These are not the fillings. I'll just write the hook lengths. Does anybody just tell me the hook length of this? Just type it out or something. Fast fingers gets like an ice cream or something. Right again. Damn it, mom. This works so well. You all just got manipulated. Wait. So the people who said 7 is it's no, right? So it will be 6 because 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that fine? Do you see why it's 6, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll just write 6 over here. Similarly, I'll just do the hook length calculation. This is 1, this is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 1. And how many total boxes are here? There are 8 boxes. So let's find f lambda. F lambda will be equal to 8 factorial. 8 factorial, 6, 4, 3, 1, 1. These are all being multiplied into 2 into 4 into 1, right? So I just multiply all of these numbers and I do an 8 factorial by this, which you can figure out, and this will give your f lambda. It's a total number of fillings. Cool. So
Why is this like reasonable to expect? I mean, this sort of.
lol.
I mean, it seems arbitrary to me.
It is very arbitrary. That's the whole point of this. It's such a pretty formula, and it comes out of nowhere. There is a slight like a bad probability interpretation that, like, I don't know, Conway or Knuth someone gave. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. We can discuss this later, like why it's slightly less arbitrary. But for now, this is a magic formula. Don't question this. This is a very pretty magic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, people have so many proofs of this. It's like the idea. It's something nice in partition theory. Now that we know about partitions, let's try to order them. Before we do that, we need to know how to order anything at all. So we will slowly start by building up what is an order. So given any set, we can put some relation on it. So you people, I'm assuming, know what a relation is. A relation is a subset of S cross S type. That's it. You can put any relation on it, which we suggestively we multiply all of the hook lengths. So this is all of the hook lengths. That's over all boxes in the Ferris diagram. Forget the first column hook length. So yeah, it's all of them. Cool. Right. So we put a relation on it, and the relation will be, we will read this as x is less than equal to y, like we normally do. This relation has some nice properties which we don't really need, but we will know intuitively. Okay, let's do, for example, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 pe we put the standard ordering on 1, 2, 3. What is the standard order on 1, 2, 3? It's 1 less than equal to less than equal to 3. Right? Right. And you can see that this implies that 1 is less than equal to 3. This is one of the properties of this particular relation. So 1 is less than equal to 2, 2 is less than equal to 3, and 1 is less than equal to 3. Which means I pick any two random elements from this set, and I can be like, hey, these two elements have this order in between them. That's cool. Now I just x comma 3 where x ranges all r. What is this set? This set is very well known. So it's all these elements. Standard order where which we inherit from the real numbers. So x comma 3 will be less than equal to some y comma 3 if and only if x is less than equal to y. So basically it's a copy of your real 9. So like 5 comma 3 will be less than equal to 5.34 comma 3, something like that. And all of this would hold. But in this case also, मैं यहाँ पे कोई element उठाऊं and I pick some element over here, I can be like, hey, this element is clearly less than equal to this element. Or I can do something for this element and some random element. So I can pick any two elements and they will have this relation well defined. But that might not always be true because I might have what is called a partial order. I can pick two elements and then this thing would stop making sense. I can't say which one is less than or equal to. So in such a case, we call it a partial order, and the thing is called a poset, like a partially ordered set. Partially ordered set. And basically you pick two elements and you'll be like, this does not make sense. So posets are fine, right? Posets are fine. Now we will see what is a cover relation. So this is the second part of the talk where we are going into what is a lattice. We've already done one important combinatorial object. Now we'll pick another one. So we are given a poset, posums, I don't know. So we're given a poset, and then we say that y covers x. Remember that cover is not the same as less than equal to. So we say y covers x if there is any element that is less than equal to y and greater than equal to x, then it must be z or x. So in some sense, it's like the smallest, biggest element, like an infimum kind of thing. There are no elements in between these two elements, and upar wala is said to cover the smaller wala, and smaller wala will be covered by. And so the statement y covers x will have different interpretations in what context you're looking at. If I'm looking at one poset, the cover relation like y covers x will be under a different condition, and if I'm looking at the other poset, it will be under a different condition. So now we'll see some examples how cover relations come up, and we'll see how for some all finite posets and some infinite posets can be defined completely by their cover relations. So this is what I call the ancestry poset. Interestingly, I had this idea, and then Wikipedia pe apparently it's also there. So that I check later. So ancestry poset may y covers x if y is a parent of x. So I take all of the, so my, for a poset, I first need to define S, which is the set of all organisms, dead or alive, organisms to ever exist. Cool. You know what actually has to humans, nobody cares. All humans to ever exist. And x is less than equal to y if x is a descendant of y. We are ignoring some things like adoption and stuff. So we can actually take adoption. We can. We'll just consider this, and we'll say that y covers x if y is a parent of x. So supposing x and x prime are siblings, then we'll take x. I will draw a line and go to y. And because y covers x prime also because they are real siblings, I can make x prime. Let's assume and understand like, fine. So this way we can do it. Supposing both the siblings have the same parents, then we can take y prime and be like, this is also a parent and this is also a parent. And by doing this repeatedly, you can construct every possible thing. You can go to a, so if I say that y is a descendant of x, then I can go by multiple parents like parent, grandparent, and so on, and eventually I will reach the descendant one. And so this makes our ancestry poset. Why is this a poset and not like a fully ordered, totally ordered set? Because x and x prime clearly have no relation like this, right? X and x prime may, if I take two siblings, I can't say one is the parent of the other, right? Even no matter how overbearing the other ones. So you will have to be like x and x prime have no relation between them in this particular ancestry poset. So these two elements are incomparable. Like most things in this would be incomparable. Is the notion of incomparability, is this fine?
Yeah.
Cool. So okay, now we have this. We can extend this mathematically and we can take like any tree in the graph theoretic sense is also a poset. You can take yahan se and you can start making your tree, and then you can have this, and you can see how this has a very line poset like structure. So S is the set of all vertices of the graph, and this and let's do just y covers x if there is an edge between y and x and y is farther from the origin, from the root. This is called the root, by the way. So like this one is 1, 2 steps away from the root, and it shares an edge with this guy. So this guy covers this, which is sort of like a generalization of our ancestry. A slightly more interesting example is our integer lattice. You can take 0, 0, then 1, 0, I guess, 2, 0, 3, 0, minus 1, 0, minus 2, 0, so on. And upar jaake you can do minus 2, 1, minus 1, 1. You can do 0, 1, and so on. In this case, we can define the cover relation to be key. In one coordinate, it's the consecutive number. So this covers this, this covers this, this covers this, this covers this. So S equal to the set of all x comma y. No, z. And this is this is the dictionary order. So you know how you read in a dictionary, right? You look for the common letters आगे से, and then you see कि बाद में कौन सा letter आता है. Like admonish comes after aberration. The first letter is same, but D comes after B. Similarly, we can have this over here. You look at the first coordinate. If they are the same, Wait, isn't this the same as successor? Which thingy? Yes, yes. Successor is in the case of natural numbers and totally ordered sets. Because you might not have just one successor. Like you can have this as a covering relation, which is x, y, and w. So z covers x, z covers y, z covers w. And you might not even have like a single successor. You might have z prime. So z prime also covers x. So if I ask you the successor of x, you can't give me. You will have a set of successors. Sure, it's a generalization of the successor predecessor thing in natural numbers. And that's it. Right. Everybody got the dictionary order thing, right? So yeah, I look at the first coordinate. अगर ये वाला इससे बड़ा है, I just draw a line between them, and yeah, that's fine. I mean, the representation might be not two-dimensional, but what is nice about it, this actually looks like the grid. So you can make this grid, and then you can have this lattice. So now we have looked at some examples of posets and cover relations. Can you tell me a poset which does not have well-defined cover relations? Yeah, basically. Yeah, so yeah, correct, with usual order. So I don't know what these names are, but I call these discrete posets, which can be like, even though they might be infinitely big, like this poset is infinitely big, right? This poset is infinitely big, but it still can be just defined by its cover relation. Whereas Q or R, they cannot be defined by the cover relations because you don't know what comes next. So you can call this transitive. These are transitive posets or like discrete posets, and these are what are called dense orders, the same density. Right. So now that we are clear on posets, we define some special kinds of posets, which are called lattices. So before we define lattices properly, we need to have two concepts: meets and joins. So meet of two elements is the largest element that is smaller than both elements. So you take these two, x and y, you see everything that like is niche in some sense. So you consider this and you consider this and you consider this, and then you see कि इनमें से सबसे बड़ा element कौन सा. So this, and this. Now you can see that z, w, t. So you can see that z is smaller than x and y, and t is smaller than x and y, and w is smaller than x and y. So in our case, the meet will be t and w. There are two possible values of meet in our case because they can both be superior. Is the idea of a meet fine? If that's okay, then the join is exactly same thing, but it's for upar wale elements. So you look at x join y, and then you look at everything that's bigger than them, and you consider the smallest, which is like just a bigger. So an element that basically covers both of them, sort of kind of thing, but not really. So our meets and joins clear. We can, so if I have 1, 2, this element is the join of the two. 3 is join of 1 and 2. Now we will just do an example. So is it better? So I take all the natural numbers, and then I define the order x is less than equal to y such that y divided by x is a prime number. So actually y covers x. Y covers x if y by x is a prime number. We've already seen that a cover relation can describe all of this. So in this case, if I give you two numbers p and q, not p and q, m comma n, what is the join of n comma m comma n? And what is the meet? Does anybody want to take a guess? Yeah. Is that clear why they should be the GCD and the LCM? Okay, fine. I'll assume it's fine. So a join of these elements will be their LCM, because you can prime factorize them, and then you can see key. You can take the maximum of all powers. Actually, we will just write it explicitly once, because it might be useful. This is say m, and then you have this is a prime expansion. QS alpha s alpha 1 n, right? Now what I do is actually p1 beta 1 dot ps alpha s and dot baki sare ke powers are 0. So for every p1 I take the maximum of alpha 1 beta 1, and like same for pr I take the max of alpha r comma beta r, and this is the LCM of m comma n. Similarly, if I take the minimum, I'll get the GCD or the HCF. So I do this for all primes, and then this becomes my join, and the GCD becomes my meet. It's cool. You want okay, fine. So the poset is the set of all natural numbers, and the cover relation is y covers x if and only if y divided by x is prime. A slightly nicer way is actually y is less than x. Sorry, x is less than equal to y if and only if x divides y. This is the poset under divisibility. So 2 divides 6, right? So 2 is less than equal to 6. Yeah, and 6 also covers 2. But 2 divides 12, 2 is less than equal to 12, but 12 does not cover 2. Because 12 by 2 would be equal to 6, which is not prime. I mean, you might have heard of this, but this cover relation way of representing a poset is called a Hasse diagram. I take y, I look at all the things like it covers, w and whatever, and I just draw these. So this drawing means ki this covers this 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 covers 4 and 2 covers 4. 3 covers 2 and 3 covers 1. 1 and 2 are incomparable, and 4 is less than 3. So Hasse diagrams are a nice way to just encapsulate this incomparability, cover relations, and less than equal. And I mean, you obviously notice this, but like cover relations go, if you keep iterating, they basically become the less than equal. And for every x less than equal to y, you can factorize it. So in our discrete poset case, you can factorize by cover relations. So you can put like x is less than x1, x is less than xr less than equal to xy, such that all of these are cover relations. That makes sense, right? Which might be a thing you might have seen in group theory, but whatever. Right.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
So we'll now look at lattices and like just tell me if the first one is a lattice or it's not a lattice. You have to look. Oh, right. Wait, I did not tell you why it's a lattice, so it's not a lattice. What is a lattice? So a lattice is a poset where every pair of element x and y in S has a unique meet and a unique join. Take any two elements, they should have a unique meet. Take two elements, they should have a unique meet. Done. Take two elements, they should have a unique join. Done. In our upar wala, wait, I don't remember where I made that. Okay, it's not there. So something like, oh right, the ancestry poset, right? So yeah, see the ancestry poset, this is not a lattice because they don't have a unique join. Two siblings have two different parents. Like two siblings have two parents. So if you ask the join, they will have this has a join and this has a join. So it's not unique. So every lattice has a unique meet and a unique join. Any two elements in the lattice. So now that you know what a lattice is this a lattice? Yeah, looks like one. That is good. That's how you do math actually. So it is actually a lattice. You can find it by the like that way, like literally just looking at meets and joins of everything. So you know how it looks like a cube? This is called a Boolean lattice. So you can have multiple interpretations of a lattice. Currently I've only put points on it, but on those points you can put objects. This way, this particular lattice structure can order many different objects and like types of objects. So this is one example. I put 1 2 3 1 3 2 3 and this. So this is called a face poset of a triangle. So what I can, why did that change color? So I do 1 2 3 and the number of letters denote the size. So 1 is a point, like 1 2 3, these are points. 1 2 1 3 2 3, they are the line segments, and 1 2 3 is the face. And you know that any 2 points define a so any 2 points will define a unique line, right? And 2 lines will have a unique intersection in a polygon, and 2 lines will define a unique face, and 2 faces will meet at a unique line if it was like a polyhedron, right? So just by interpreting the lattice in one way, we have used our previous knowledge of uniqueness of this and said ki, yes, it must have unique meets and joins. Even better, what you can do is you can put subsets on this. This is why it's called a Boolean lattice. That is very cool, I know, right? So I'm just making the same lattice, yz, and this xz, and then you do all three and xyz. I'll zoom in a little. Can you see what I'm doing over here in this particular lattice? What is the meet and join? If I take like this element, yeah, intersection and union. And you know that intersection and union will be unique, right? So in that sense, if you like pick two elements, they can't have a different union every time you do it. So this is why it's called a Boolean lattice. So these are Boolean lattices. And you can make them in any number of dimensions. This is small, so it was easy to do. What about this? Is this a lattice? Is it? Right again. Is it a lattice? Damn, that's unconvincing. It is a lattice. So, okay, so look at this. If I take this element, right, niche wala, and I join it with any other element, the answer will be the bigger wala element, right? If I join it with this, it will be this. The join will be this. If I join it with this, it will be this. And then you can take these two, and then you can see ki this is the join of these two elements. And this is also a join of these two elements. And so you can do a step-by-step thing, and you will see ki this is actually a lattice. These are just 5 points. So you have to check at best 10 cases. And so it's not that hard to check by hand. This is called a Tamari lattice. Do you people know about Catalan numbers? You might have done in your comp course. If you haven't, Catalan numbers are some very important counting numbers. Like, you know how binomial coefficients are really important in counting things? So are Catalan numbers. And these Tamari lattices, so Catalan numbers count something. Like if I tell you the nth Catalan number, then it's counting some n, like triangulations of a polygon or something. So on these points, I can put those Catalan objects, and I can order those Catalan objects in some way. So these are 5 points, right? And 5 is like the third C3, like the third Catalan number. So I can put like Catalan objects on it. And like, because you know, right? What are these? These are subsets. Subsets are counted by binomial coefficients, right? That's how, right? So subsets are counted by binomial coefficients, and these are Catalan objects. So Boolean lattices and Tamari lattices are in some sense. So at every point I'm putting an object that my thing is counting. So these are Catalan objects, which I'll put over here. And this is a famous sort of lattice. Is this a lattice? Yeah, is everybody fine with this? I asked that question at a very wrong time. I know all of you mean it's not a lattice, but yeah. So it's not a lattice, and it can go rot in hell. So, boo. So we'll move on. Now we have our ordering system in place, and we have a good idea of what partitions is. And now we need to just put both of them together and actually make something that works. There are quite a few ways of doing this, but we won't look at them. We'll just look at what is called containment ordering and dominance ordering. And just for like pedantic purposes, the shapes are lambda and mu. And when I say lambda I or mu I, it means look at the ith row of lambda or mu, right? So it's like the tuples may ith coordinate. And this will be a convention for the coming section. Right. So we now say that mu is contained in lambda if mu I is less than equal to lambda I for all I. What does that mean? That means ki if I look at my mu, you know what, let's do this. So this is my lambda, and this is my mu, say. What is lambda I? Lambda 1 equal to 4 and lambda 2 equal to 3. Mu 1 equal to 3 and mu, you know what, let's do this, 3 and 3. Mu 2 is also equal to 3. First condition satisfied, correct. Second condition also satisfied. So no, ulta. This and this. So what I can do, I can say is mu is contained in lambda. And you can see what containment means, right? I take these boxes and I literally put it over here. And you can see now why it's called the containment order. Because mu is literally contained in lambda. I would like somebody to tell me what the cover relation in this case. Clearly, this forms an ordering, right?
Are the covering relations those three things that you described in the beginning?
What three things?
I mean, you can add a cube, or you can.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you can
yes.
do something else. I forgot. Move one
Correct.
cube from one thing to
Correct.
another.
Correct. One thing wala is not a cover relation. That won't be a cover relation.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah.
But yes. So move one wala is clearly not a cover relation because like you might have a containment and then you might break it. I'll just explain it in the next wala. What I mean. So the cover relation basically is you have something and then you add a block to it. And so this whole thing covers the previous one. And you can sort of intuitively see why this is a cover relation. Because like in order to go from one to the other in containment, you need to have more boxes in rows. And the only way you can have more boxes is by adding one box at a time. Right? You can't add less than one box. So that's why there is nothing in between the green wala and this full red wala. So this becomes our cover relation. Right? Cool. So we get into something slightly more complicated. So we say that mu is less than equal to lambda, or mu is dominated by lambda, if the sum of the first n parts of mu I is less than equal to lambda. Like the sum of first n parts of mu is less than equal to the sum of first n parts of lambda, and this should hold for all n. So what I mean is, mu1 should be less than equal to lambda 1, mu1 plus mu2 should be less than equal to lambda 1 plus lambda 2, mu1 plus mu2 plus mu3, you get the idea. Mu3 is less than equal to that. Okay. Okay, kind of want to know. So this should hold true till infinity. For example, this is one of those 4, 2, 2, 1, and you have 5, 2, 1, 1, right? Now let's compare mu1. 4 is less than equal to 5. Well, that's good. 4 plus 2, which is 6, is less than equal to 7, which is 5 plus 2. That's also great. 4 plus 2 is 8, which is less than equal to 5 plus 2 plus 1, which is also 8. And then you have the whole sum, which is 9, and the whole sum, which is 9. Whole sum. So this is an example of a dominance order. You can sort of intuitively see that this partition is slightly flatter. Like it has its badi wali rows in the beginning, like at the top. So the partition is sort of flat in some sense. And this is a non-example. Okay, so remember, for two elements to be non-comparable, incomparable, we can't have, so we should have at one time it's bigger and the other time it's smaller, right? Because if it's always bigger, then it's bigger. So everything is cool. 3 is less than equal to 4. That's great. 3 plus 2 is less than equal to 4 plus 1. That's also true. But 3 plus 2 and 4 plus 1 plus 1. Clearly not the same sign, right? It's not the same direction. And so that means these two are incomparable. Yeah. So you cannot compare them under the dominance order. You can't even compare them under the containment ordering. And in this case, you can see that they are comparable under the dominance ordering, but not the containment ordering. Not containable, I guess. One word. Yes. Correlation. Can you find out what the correlation might be? Yes, the raising operation. So the correlation in this case is the raising operation. So you take lambda equal to lambda 1, lambda 2. I'm just not gonna draw right now. So lambda I to lambda j up to whatever. Then I can raise it by Rij, which means it will be this, and lambda I plus 1 and lambda j minus 1 dot dot dot. I take a box from jth row and put it in the ith row. And so in the dominance ordering, that will be my correlation. We can discuss later like why this ends up being correlation. I think it's sort of clear. So we have now established dominance ordering. And this is the way to, so if I say that lambda is greater than equal to mu, then lambda can be expressed as R mu, right? Where R is the operator, like Rij, then Ri prime, Ji prime. I keep shifting boxes. So why is one thing bigger than the other in dominance ordering? Because we said ki the upar wali rows, they have so much mass, right? They are bigger. And what does the raising operator do? It takes something from the bottom and puts upar, which clearly means that if you keep doing that, there will be more mass in the above rows, and thus the thing will become bigger. So it's intuitively clear why the raising operator should like make things bigger in dominance ordering. So is dominance ordering fine?
Wait, I'm a bit confused about one thing.
Yes.
Like I don't like usually in an order we like can tell if something is just bigger than something else, but I can't really see that in dominance ordering.
You can't really see. I kind of agree with that. So fine. So in this case, we can sort of discuss this, but so you have this. Okay, so right, now what we can do is we can add lambda 1, lambda 1, lambda 1 plus lambda 2, lambda 1 plus lambda 2, and dot dot dot. This will be lambda 1 plus lambda I tak ka sum, right? What will the sum be over here?
Wait,
so this is my original lambda, and this is my Rij wala lambda, which is this. You can see over here.
okay, plus 1. Yeah.
So it's lambda I plus 1. Right. And so sum yahan tak same hai. That means these are all less than equal to. And this is also less than equal to, but it's like bigger, and it's bigger by just exactly 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And you kind of want to conserve your, so if you're talking about partitions of n, I can't just like add a block, right? I have to pick a block from somewhere, but the number of boxes would increase.
Right.
So that's why we have this decrement.
Okay, thanks.
So did you understand this? Because we're going to ditch it now. We really don't care about dominance ordering right now. We will talk about containment ordering. So containment ordering mein, we will see what is a Young's lattice. So it's the poset. So you take all partitions, not partitions of a given number, but all partitions of any number. And we'll denote it by the containment order. So yeah, and also empty partition is a thing, which is like nothing, no boxes. And the only thing that contains like the cover relation of empty partition will be one box. So I kind of, now what I can do is I can add a box on the right, or I can add a box niche. And इसके साथ what I can do, again I can add a box to the right, or I can add a box niche. But yes, in this case we can do more things. I can add a box यहाँ पे. I can add a box to the right, I can add a box niche, or I can add a box over here. So this will be my Young's post set, which now we will show is actually a lattice. Can you tell me what might be the meet and the join of lattice? This in this particular case, like if I make these boxes, you can go ahead and yeah.
So just to guess, will the meat be like the diagram you get by overlapping these two? I mean, whatever, the suprema.
Remember, it's not necessary that one is contained in the other. The way I've
Right, so
drawn it.
like you overlap the two things and then you sketch the outline. Oh wait, I see why that probably won't work.
What do you exactly mean by union intersection of boxes?
Oh, so like you draw it out. Oh wait, you're talking to me here.
No. You have the right idea, but it's, or you can express this in like the terms of partitions. In this way, can you tell me what might be the meet and the join?
I guess the maximum of each of the individual components. Max and min.
Yes. That will be my join. So for something to contain, so what is, let's start with meet first, right? Or actually let's start with join first. Yeah. So join में, why did you change color? God. So join में, what I need is I need a thing that contains it, right? So that means कि उसकी first row must be bigger than the first row of the larger first row, right? So my thing should have at least 4 boxes. Then I need to contain the second row. So my second row should have at least 2 boxes. And I want this to do in the smallest number of boxes in some sense. So what I can do is I can just take the maximum. So my first row has 4 boxes and my second row has 2 boxes. And this is the join of these two elements. Similarly, for meet, what you can do is you can take the minimum. So you take minimum of lambda I comma mu I, and that's your ith row. Join ke liye what you do is you do the maximum. So remember how we did for primes, like LCM and GCD, and how it was very similar to just this. It's sort of like that. So in a lot of places, if you have some arithmetic thingy, your maximum and minimum might be your joins, or your union and intersection might be your joins, and like this. So we actually do get a lattice. So, right. Now, remember how Megha asked, why are we filling randomly? There is a reason to filling that way. So what I can do, supposing I give you a partition that I want you to make. Supposing this is my partition that I wanted to make. So what I can do is I can say ki build it box by box. But every time I add a box, I have been forced to now write where I put my box. So I put it over here. And then I put my second box over here. So this will be my first box, second box. Then I put a third box. Then I put a fourth box and then put a fifth box. This is what Karthik was noticing that time. I think Karthik was the one who was saying it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put 1, then I put the second box. At every point, it should be a partition, 4 and 5. So our filling is just us trying to build this partition like at one step at a time, like climbing up the containment wala lattice. So you start from this, you go over, and basically if I draw it lattice wise, you can see how I'm going over. And every filling corresponds to a path in this lattice. First I add 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box, 5 box. And every path corresponds to a filling. Right? Corresponds to a standard young tableau, because they've already introduced that word, so we use it. So every path to lambda corresponds to a standard young tableau on lambda. That means the number of paths is equal to f lambda. F lambda is our dimension. We can do this for a smaller example, I presume. We can just remove boxes and 1 and 0. So how many paths are there? There are 1, 2 paths. And if I calculate f lambda by that formula, what I get is this has a hook length of 3, this is 1, this is 1. So 3 times 1 times 1, which is equal to 3 into 2 by 3, which is equal to 2. And we have 2 paths. You're welcome to try this for bigger partitions, but you only get like big. So is this particular correspondence clear? Right? Okay. So now I just show a nice usage of this correspondence. So a self-conjugate partition is a partition who is its own conjugate. So for example, this partition is its own conjugate. You take along the diagonal, you flip it. Like remember symmetric matrices? Symmetric matrices type. And this is another one. You take it along this diagonal and you flip it. It's a self-conjugate. So what can we really say about f lambda? Do you have any guesses? Do you want to make guesses? It is, but why? I mean, that's what I'm going to show right now. But yes. So what can we say about f lambda? So I claim it's even. It's like always even. It's not that hard to see, but so what I will do is I will construct lambda and lambda tilde at the same time. So because it's a self-conjugate, these two are equal. I will take an example if it makes it easier for you. Yes. So I'll put a box here. I'll put a box here. Then I'll put a box to the right of it. But because I'm constructing lambda tilde, I'll put a box niche. And then this person is like, why are you copying me? And so I'll put a box here. And similarly, I can put a box here. Then I can put a box niche again. on the right maybe. So then I get these 3. If this guy puts on the right, I put on the bottom. So if he puts on I comma j, I'll put on j comma I. And this way I will construct this. Now we know that putting boxes is the same as filling in numbers. And we also know that filling in numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And we also know that filling in numbers is the same as using these lattice paths. Right? So what it says, key for every path that I have to this, I can construct another path that goes to the same place, where lambda is the lambda tilde. And you can probably say it's, why can't these be the same paths?
You can't have
These-
everything on the diagonal.
Yes, basically. You can't always have self-conjugate partitions because the first step itself requires you to not have self-conjugate partitions. If you have to add 2 boxes, if that guy will end up adding on the right and you will end up adding each. So if as the first step is not self-conjugate, so the 2 paths are different, they can meet in the middle, like you can see they can meet in the middle. But if you follow these paths, they're 2 different paths. And for every path, you get another path, and that means my f lambda is even. So for n equal to 2, there are no lambda equal to lambda tilde. Self-conjugate partitions start at 3 or like 1 if you really want
But I mean, like, 1 is a counterexample to this nice result. So
to. Yeah. So yes. So except the trivial, so empty partition 1, leave them. Yeah, for n greater than equal n strictly get that. Yeah, correct.
also, is there a way of seeing this like completely algebraically and symbolically? Like, I mean, I get the visual
Yes.
interpretation, but in terms of the factorial.
Yes. I am not sure actually. I was trying it, but I haven't actually sat down and looked at it. So technically there is one way of looking at it, which has to do with odd partitions. We can talk about this in like 5 minutes.
Oh, cool.
Empty is not fine because empty has it's 1. So f of empty is 1, which is also a counterexample. I don't know, does empty even exist? Who knows? So yes. So you can use this nice correspondence to see that your dimension will be even. And that's all we have. Okay. Thank.
So I had a question. You mentioned odd partition.
I mentioned what?
Odd partitions.
Odd
So,
partitions, yes.
like, I'm not sure if this question is about odd partitions as such, but I noticed that you can make sure that things aren't. Okay, no, I think I just found a counterexample to my question.
Yes.
I was gonna say, what would happen if you could, instead of adding 1 at every step, you add some other number at other number of boxes,
Right.
and you get any then.
Right. You can add dominoes at every step. You can add. So you're correct. There is a thing like that. And it's called adding a p hook.
I see. Okay.
So you can add any number of things at a time. Correct.
Okay.
And it's a very rich theory.
I see. At first, I was gonna say if I add an odd number of boxes, I won't get a self conjugate, but that's wrong because if I add 3, I can get a square, I think. So I guess that fails almost immediately. Yeah. Thanks.
Also, remember we went from a self conjugate to a self conjugate. Like, so this is a self conjugate, right? If I add 1, it's still a self conjugate.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
it
then-
doesn't destroy or preserve. It's not. It's random. Yes,
So
thank you.
does that mean that I can still, like, suppose I decide to add a natural like some number of boxes at each step. Suppose at each step the number of boxes is the same, then I'll still get some paths and filling equivalents.
You will, correct.
Right? I
Yes. But yes, I don't know what the significance of that would be. So if you can ensure that your boxes are all joined together in some sense,
Right.
like they're adjacent to each other, then the p-hook theory comes in.
Oh,
So you add p many boxes at once, and the condition is they should be adjacent. But if you are getting rid of the adjacency condition, then I don't know. Then it's like adding two q and r hooks such that q plus r equal to p, right?
right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the significance of that is. Because all of this actually is a combinatorial interpretation of representation theory. So there is like massive algebra behind it, which I just like did not touch at all. So all of this is necessary and comes up in places.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Also, I have a slight bonus if you're interested. So f lambda has super nice properties. You can get binomial coefficients. So if you make a lambdas look a certain way, you can get binomial coefficients out of them, and you can get Catalan numbers. It's kind of cool. So you can find odd Catalan numbers, like which Catalan numbers are odd, because there is a theory of odd dimensional partitions. It's kind of sweet. Yeah. Man, any more questions? Also had a page for exercises. If you are interested in the exercises, I have put them here.
Can you go back to that binomial thing?
Yes.
A is the horizontal thing, right?
Yes. I should have written that. Correct. This is A. Not this one, like nothing. Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Also, what were the exercises again?
So the conjugate value exercise. Wow, just give the answer. Then the first column hook lengths are nice. Then you have to show that the conjugate has the same dimension as the partition. But I didn't mention this. No? So the conjugate has the same dimension as the partition. Which you probably figure out well.
Anna, the second question.
Huh?
If you consider the second column hook length, is that again not a? Would you again get a bisection?
Second column hook lengths are not complete.
No. So assume you know the hook lengths of the second column.
Right.
Just add 1 to each of those elements. You will get the lengths of the first.
No, that won't work. Because you have this, right, and the second column hook length might just stop here.
So what I'm telling is, if it stops over there, just subtract all the hook lengths minus the number of rows that you have.
Right. Then for that, what do you need? The number of rows.
Yeah, you know the number of rows because you stopped at so many lengths, at so many elements. So that will give you the number of single element partitions, parts, not partitions. Sorry.
Right.
So you do you or do you not have a bisection here?
So you want the second column hook length? But you need second column hook length and the number of rows, right?
No, but when you're given the hook length, is that not known how many
No,
rows you have?
you're only given the second column. So because the total number of rows might be greater.
Yeah. So what I'm telling is now you consider all these hook lengths. You subtract. To determine the length of each row, I think you need to subtract an minus 1 and you'll get the length and add 1 to that again. This will give you the length of each row. And add all of these up together, subtract that from n, and that will give you the number of rows that are single elements. Or maybe draw an example I can explain maybe.
Right. So you will get 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yes. From the third column on, it won't work because of the reason that you gave.
For the second column, it might actually work. Right. So this will be equal to lambda I. So it will be lambda 1 minus 1 plus whatever your length is. Right?
Yes.
Minus 1. Right, this will work. This seems like it should work.
Maybe just check with the diagram. Maybe.
Yeah. Second, so yeah, the thing is that you have these ones over here.
Yeah, that is the only problem. Yes.
Yeah, that is the only. But how do you know how many ones are there?
I think you have to add all these hook lengths. Okay, so you determine the length of each row first. Then add all these up. Subtract that from n.
Oh, okay. So you are assuming that you are given n.
Yes.
So
wrong assumption now?
No, that's not assumed over here now. So it's just lambda and h lambda.
Okay, then fine.
So given n and the second column, then you can.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, this we covered.
Hi, so I have a question, but it's not related to Young's lattice, but just lattices. So you mentioned that if you have the cover relations for a poset, then that determines the entire poset. So in a lattice,
in a case of in a finite case, yes, and
right,
some infinite cases.
Okay. So if so in a lattice you have unique meets and joins, right? So if you just have the data of given two elements, what their meet and join is, can you recover the entire lattice?
For every pair, if you are given a meet and a join. Yeah, for every pair you are given a meet and a join, then if it's just a meet and that means okay. So I think it might not work, right? Because look at the Tamari lattice. So you are given this, and I have no idea why they're trying to kill me. Supposing these are the two lattices, right? You are saying कि if I'm given the meet and the join, then they should be the same lattice, right?
Yeah.
So ignore this element because this element के साथ whatever you give, it will be the top wala answer only.
Right.
And this element के साथ whatever you give, it will be the bottom. This element only in the case of join.
Yeah.
So I need to consider these two. इसका join ये रहा, which is the same as these two elements. उसका join ये रहा. Done. These two elements उसका join ये रहा. These two elements उसका join ये रहा. And these two elements का join ऊपर वाला है, which is different in this case. हाँ.
I was asking about the converse, I think.
Yeah, I know. So I was trying to construct two which have the same meets and joins, but I could not. Meets and joins should be enough to construct the lattice. That's what I feel like. I am not sure about this.
Okay, and what if, what do you think will happen if the meets and joins exist, but they are not unique? Then I don't think it will.
If meets and joins exist, so meets and joins will always exist now for a finite person.
Sure.
There is some answer.
Yeah.
So if you're saying if meets and joins are enough to construct a process, Okay, so one very weird thing. So what is your setting? Your setting is you are given x and y. This is your tuple, right? That you give to me. This is the information, right? You just don't give me meets and joins. You also give x and y, correct?
Yeah.
So from this you can always recover cover relations because x and y equal to x and x y equal to x might not be a cover relation. I should.
Those will be cover relations.
These are not necessarily cover relations. They are intervals. Like they are like this. So if this is y and x.
Right.
So what you can see is you can at least recover all intervals, right? Sorry, not x. Yeah.
But here, okay, I'm not sure what you've done here. You've said that x meters, and I'm not sure what that is. That is equal to x.
So x.
This is for a chain.
Yeah. So I'm given a. So this is called an interval. Right. So if I am given this information for all x and y, this is what you give me, right? Now I know that x and y lie in an interval, and I know x and z will lie in the interval, and x and w and z will lie in it. And by these relations, I know what their positions are. Correct? Because z join y will be y, z meet y will be z, and x meet x join z will be z, and x meet z will be x. So what does this tell you? This tells you कि z बड़ा है, x छोटा है, and y सबसे बड़ा है. So what I'm saying is कि from your information, we can fully construct the intervals, and once you can construct the interval, you have your cover relations always. So I think if you have a lattice, you should be able to construct all cover relations just by knowing the elements and their meets and joins. Does that make sense? Sort of. Yeah. I'm not sure. Just check it once. This is my guess.
Once you have the interval, then you can do some.
Yeah, it seems like it should work, right?
Yeah.
Because this condition tells you they're in an interval, and just by looking at kaun sa bada hai, kaun sa chota hai, you can always like probably figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe this should work.
Yeah. Also, the path interpretation of the yeah. So is a proof for the dimension formula given by just like counting the paths?
There's so many proofs, but I don't think anybody goes for the paths one.
Okay. I mean, yeah, one thing is that we probably don't, that constructing the lattice itself might be harder.
Yeah, I think the filling thing, the boxes adding thing, path thing, they're all the same amount of hard. So you need to do something smarter. So, okay. So people were asking it, so I might just give the weird. So there's a probabilistic interpretation of this. You know how if I put a number here randomly, right? And how many numbers are in this box? Total numbers are h, right? There are h many numbers. And if you go towards the right, the number should decrease. If you go wait, did I say decrease? No, sorry. If you go towards the right, the hook lengths decrease, right? And the number should okay. So I put a random number here, r. यहाँ पे this should increase. यहाँ पे this should increase, right? And these are in some sense h many numbers. And if you are given a set of h numbers, what's the probability that you put the smallest number over here? It is 1 by h, right? And you then multiply all of the probabilities. And then what's the total number of ways to fill n boxes with random numbers so that all numbers are different, and factorial. And so it gives you n factorial product h. It's clearly, you see why this is fake, right? Wait, what?
Okay, first thing, if you know that one will always be at the top.
No, so sorry. This is your whole thing, by the way. I'm just taking a box in my top.
Yeah, but you're also multiplying, right?
Huh?
So the fact that we know that one has to be in the one position.
No, so one is over here.
Yeah, so that's a term that you included in the product of 1 by x.
Right.
The first term.
I mean, yes, that is one of the issues. So the major issue is that you cannot multiply probabilities. The probabilities are not independent, right? If I choose a number over here, the other numbers are dependent on what number I choose. Like I have boxes, right? Wait, so if I have boxes over here, I put 1, so 2, 3, and then 4, right? But and 5, correct? So if I put like 3 over here, and 4 over here, and 5 over here, I had a choice to make, correct? For every single box. But if I put 3 over here, then I don't really have a choice in putting 4 and 5. I'm forced to put 4 and 5. But in the previous case, if I put a 3 niche, then I could put 4 over here and 5 over here and vice versa. So the number putting is not independent. And so you can't just multiply the probability. So this is a very fake proof. Fake. But the ideas of this proof of the probability thing can be used. Yeah. Thank. Bye-bye. Yeah, so the proofs are quite hard. And I don't think anybody is using the lattice or interpretation for proof things. Do you have any more questions? Question page. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Wait. This is so awkward. What do I do?
Also, so
Hanji.
about Varun's question. Like, so, I mean, I may be wrong because my brain is not working anymore. But so yeah, so the question was, if you know the elements and like if you know the meets and joins, all these things. Like if you have some black box meet function and a black box join function, you want to reconstruct the poset, right? So my
Poset or the lattice? Poset may you want to have unique meets and joins. Lattice may you will have unique meets and joins.
All right, but so a lattice is a poset, right? So you want to reconstruct the poset. That, I mean, whatever that existed. So if you have a black box meet function and a black box join function, then meet xy and join xy are x and y respectively, if and only if x is less than or equal to y. That's my conjecture.
Yes. That is true. That's true.
So in that case, to construct the poset, can't you just like plug in these values into the meet and join black box functions and like
and that's what you sort of wait, what? No, wait, somebody said wait, no? What?
Yes, because we were trying to recover the covering,
your voice echoing.
But we could if we know the order, then we are done.
Yeah, so that was the idea that we had, right? That we can actually, bro, where is it? Why did I write that? Okay, fine. Exercise, I guess. So we just put it in into the black box thing, and we have your x and y. So this means that x is less than equal to y, right? And then you know.
The interval.
Hanji?
So once we know x is less than y, and we can do this for everything. So we can just so if what Anand said is true, and the thing is and if and only if, then we essentially know all the we know what elements are comparable and what the order is. And so if we know that, then better.
So you can so this is called a chain or an interval. So you can recover intervals using this join meet black boxes. And once you have the whole interval,
why do we need to wait? We want to recover the poset, right?
So
or the covering.
If you have all of the intervals, you have the whole lattice, right?
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, if it's finite, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry. Of course, everything is finite and that discrete, infinite. So we will assume finite, Abhi, because finite. Also, lattices have a nice property that they always have this minimum element, and finite has a maximum element. It's called a 0 cap and a 1 cap. For a finite lattice, I don't know. I don't know why it's called 0 cap and 1 cap, but like they make sense. So yeah, and you can see why this is true, right? Because there are infinitely many. This is in a finite lattice. A finite lattice always has a minimum element and a maximum element, and they're like unique.
Oh, okay. Wait, is that because meet and join are associative? So then, if it's finite, then you can just take the huge meet of all of them, and you can take a huge join of them.
Basically, if you keep taking meet, you have to end somewhere intuitively.
Huh.
Like you could have ended on two different things, but if you end on two different things, yeah, and their meet must be common and unique. So every two elements ka meet must exist and it's unique. And so if you have two different meets, you can just meet them. And if you have like multiple different, then you can just keep meeting them, and in the end there will be one remaining.
Right.
Yeah. So you half the numbers every time, and like because it's finite, it cannot go to 0. Like it cannot be less than 1. So it will end up at 1, and so you'll get this. And you can also flip a lattice, like
reverse the order.
Yeah. नीचे से देखने की जगह उल्टा सा देख लो, and then all the meets become joins and the joins become meets. So
is there anything special about the Young's lattice, or is there a thing like any lattice can be realized as a Young's lattice? I'm sure that's not.
No. So Young's lattice is specifically for partitions.
Right, but the diagram that you get.
So you're saying, can I put any other object on the Young's lattice?
Yeah. I mean, you have something similar for. I mean, yeah. I'm sure you can't put all things, but what things can you put?
So because the Young's lattice is so intricate, I would expect that anything that comes has a nice bijection to partitions.
Okay.
Like you can put like interesting. Yeah, I don't think you can. But yeah, anything that's built up by adding boxes one by one can. So Stanley's book has this nice interpretation, like it has a ballot interpretation. So AI and AN are having elections, and you have to ensure that they all get lambda 1. So like A1 up to N. This guy gets lambda 1 votes by the end. This guy gets lambda N votes by the end. And you have to ensure that A1 has more votes than A2 than AN at each step. Right? Which, as you can see, is a partition. Like upper wali rows must always be bigger than the lower wali rows.
Oh, and these are the connection to Catalan numbers now.
Yeah, but Catalan numbers will be just like for 2 boxes, no? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you see the Catalan number condition. Yes. So Stanley has like 5 interpretations, but all of them are basically partitions. So you can put these objects, you can put these sequences, but again, they will all be just partitions.
So the conjugacy classes of the symmetric group are partitions, right? Of N?
Yes.
So that means that one of the Young's lattices should be isomorphic to. Oh, okay. No, that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but okay. Can you realize some property of symmetric group in these lattices?
Yes, this is the whole theory actually. All theory of partitions is basically grounded in studying the representation theory of the symmetry.
Oh, okay.
So this partition business will be that Young's lattice may actually, I don't know. Young's lattice may, how does that connect to? I don't know the ordering on representations actually. But yeah. So yes, the conjugacy classes and all the representations have this. And the fillings. Remember how we talked about fillings?
Right. Yeah.
Do you know about character values?
Not yet. No.
Okay. So for every representation, you have some matrix, some set of matrices, and unka trace are called the character values.
Okay.
And for this, say my representation corresponds to lambda, which you represent by v lambda, and iske saath there will be a matrix. So you have like chi lambda g, which is the character value of the representation by lambda at the group element g or mu. And you can fill lambda like we did the filling. You can have some other restriction on the filling and it will give you the value and that character.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Also, Young's lattice has some nice properties, like if you see all of the partitions that are odd dimensional. So we saw these were even dimensional, right? This one.
Right.
Yeah. So if you look at all of them which are odd dimensional, they form a tree in a graph theoretic sense, a tree. So you know what a tree is, right? Yeah. They form a tree. It's kind of cool.
Okay, but like suppose it's a tree. Like it's cool that it's a tree, but like what after that?
Oh wait, are you asking me the applications?
Yeah.
Then that comes down to representation theory stuff. So I mean, math में application का question just it depends on what you hold as important.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Everybody holds rep theory as important, so it's like I can say like partitions are cool to me, and if another result applies to partitions, then I'll be like, that's a good result. Bye bye, Arvind. And yeah, so if something applies to rep theory, so in that sense, it's a restriction of representation.
Okay. Yes. Right.
So you can show that every odd dimensional representation will have a unique restriction that is odd dimensional, because a tree has a unique parent, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it's a restriction.